You probably know there's a huge amount of medical research in relation to cancer in Israel and around the world, and in Australia as well. A few months ago, William Barr co-hosted an event where we had some of the leading medical or research institutes in Australia. Hearing what you're saying now about smart diagnostics, if you can call it that, using imaging, where do you see cancer patient care in, say, 10 years from now?
First, I think that we are working intensively now to create the big data bases. And this is extremely important because you can gain a lot of information via genomics and sequencing. You can gain a lot of information by measuring the response with molecular imaging and other methodology. So I would say that the key would be whether we will be able to analyze our big data, which are created nowadays, and there are several big data all over the world, and we need to cooperate on that. So we will increase the data that we have in order to do the right analysis on specific cases, meaning that if you have enough information regarding special mutation, and you can do the correlation between the influence of this mutation on the certain disease that you are dealing with, and it's not necessarily for cancer but also other diseases, and you can do the interpretation or the outcome of treating with specific drugs, then I think that it would improve significantly patient care. So I would say that the name of the game now is to create these data sets, the big data sets, of course with the help of computers, to do the analysis of the different mutation, the expression, and the results of specific treatment.
So in terms of talking about the future of the industry, and we are sort of talking about being more specific both on diagnostic and then treatment, do you think insurance companies will have a role to play in demanding or requesting a more precise diagnostic before they release funds?
Absolutely. I think that this is one of the important issues. What we are claiming is that if you are going to use the right diagnostic approach, first you can treat better your patient, but you can save a lot of money. And we can give examples not only in oncology but other disease. For example, if you are paying for a very expensive drug, antibodies or other drugs, and you are paying in order to give it to your patient, but the patient does not express this target, which targeted by this specific drug, you are wasting your money. And of course, you are losing your patient. And again, all these things can be addressed by several ways. You can do biopsy, and then you can do pathology, you can do sequencing of genome, and there are added values to each methodology. For example, with molecular imaging, you can get the answer regarding expression of protein. You know the location of the tumors if we are dealing with oncology. With the deep sequencing, you are much more sensitive. You can get more information regarding other mutation if you are looking for other mutation, and the same case with the pathology. So I think combination of all approaches together, when the patient is coming, he will do a very sophisticated molecular imaging diagnosis. He will do some pathology test. He will do some genomic analysis, and then you will be able to see more clear the picture or with what you are facing.
Eyal, what can you tell us about the tracer you developed for lung cancer?
So, you know, with the non-small cell lung cancer patient, there are very good drugs that you can use which target a certain receptor which overexpress in cancer cells, in non-small cell lung cancer. The big issue is that these receptors have several mutations. Some of the mutations are responsive to the treatment with this smart and expensive drug. Some of the mutations are non-responsive. meaning that you can give the drug, nothing would happen. So you need to know what expression or which patient express the sensitive mutation, the responsive mutation. Now you can do biopsy, you can do circulating DNA, but again, cancer is not, it's a heterogeneous disease. So we developed a smart agent which we can inject into the circulation, and we can distinguish between the variety of the mutation at this receptor. And by that we can guide specific treatment with the specific drugs which target this receptor. And we can say, okay, this patient will benefit from treatment with these drugs, and this patient will not benefit from that. Go and look for another direction. We can monitor the treatment with this specific drug, and we can say, you know, during treatment, and this is what happened with the cancer cells, during treatment they either develop another mutation which would be responsive to the drug that you are giving, or they can develop another escape mechanism. So they do a bypass to the process that you are blocking, that you are inhibiting. So we, with this agent, would be able to say, okay, this is the stage when you need to change the treatment, replace the drug, because the cancer cells develop the mutation which is no longer responsive or to this drug. Yeah.
So how fast is the diagnostics from, is it a matter of hours, days, a week before you get a result in terms of the diagnostic and which agent to use and the responsiveness of the drug used?
So when you do molecular imaging, you can get the results of the diagnosis in an hours. I mean, when you do a PET-CT, it's just a question of 2-3 hours and you have the information in hand. It depends on the availability of the physician and what is, how many patients you had that day. When you start the treatment, and I think that this is the big advantage of using molecular imaging, you know, in previous year, when you had cancer and they started treatment with smart compounds, you had to wait 1, 2, 3 months until you would see remission of the tumor with CT. Today, what we can do is use smart radiopharmaceutical, even non-specific radiopharmaceutical, which measure energy consumption like FDG. So you can inject these compounds a week after you start treatment, and you can say, okay, look, we are seeing reduction in energy consumption, meaning that the treatment that you are doing is effective. So in other words, we can track and monitor effectiveness of treatment at early stages.
So not only the diagnostic is quicker, it's also the monitoring, and that's a huge advantage.
Yeah.
So I guess over the next 5 to 10 years, this is just going to get better and better with better diagnostics and better facilities to provide this. The machinery that sort of goes hand in hand with providing these tools, how available is it around the world? Is it something that's unique to Israel or developed countries? And what can we do from your point of view to?
You know, unfortunately, this machinery or this equipment is expensive. If we are talking about accelerators to treat patients in oncology, if we are talking about high-resolution MRI like the 7 Tesla or the 3 Tesla and PET-MR machines and PET-CT machine, it's relatively expensive. Now, you cannot find this equipment in every hospital, but I think that the approach would be to have major clinical centers which have certain devices. I mean, there is no point to have a cyclotron in a place where they do not have enough PET-CTs machine or PET-MR machine. So I think that governments will have to design the medical facilities more carefully and select several places that will be professional in certain field, and then patient could be diagnosed or sent to treatment in several places. For example, if we are talking about proton therapy is extremely expensive. It's more than $100 million to build the operation, including the buildings. You cannot have it in all hospitals. So government will have to design the system in a way that patient will be able to get the best treatment in certain areas, not too far away from each other. But not everything will be found in a certain place, in a specific hospital.
Sure.
Now, when we started, I mean, I remember the days that you had to wait for MR test, something like several months, or a PET-CT was extremely expensive. So when it become routine, when it become on a daily basis, then prices are going down, and the services to the patients are getting better and better.
Professor Mishani, I want to thank you for joining us and thank you for your time, and we hope to see you in Australia again soon.
Sure, thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Thank you for watching, everyone.